All right. So, for today's class, can you see my screen? Please, can you mute your mic?
Okay.
Yeah, because the thing is. So yeah, so that
Okay. Okay, let me
so
switch
that
to system now. I'm
the
using phone.
yeah just all right. So, can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. I can see your screen.
All right. So today, what we're going to be doing is the solution to the assignment. What is attribute in HTML? How to link pages together. So what is list in HTML, and at the same time how to link medias like images, audio and videos to the page. So those are the stuff we are going to be doing. So for the solution to the assignments, I already have this file known as this ass1 underscore solution for the solution for the assignment 1, because I can see on the page there are some tags that you use in some places that you are not supposed to or use. It's not that much, but for the starter, so it's normal to have them like that. So the first one is that I noticed in the title on line 6, you are putting the b tag there. And if you check the results, you see that at the top of the page, the title is what you normally see that is going to display at the top like this. So this page that I'm currently working on actually have a title, and the title is what is showing on this page, which is what I have as a front end web development training. So this title is not going to display at all on the screen. It's just for the browser. So everything that you are going to see inside the head, they are not for the user, they are meant for the browser. So the browser will use all the information that we have inside the head. And that's the reason why you see that the title here is actually being shown on the page at the top here, not inside this white area. So everything you have inside the head is not meant for the user, it's meant for the browser. And one of the information that you always supply inside the head is this title, which give the page title, just like a book where you can have title for each page. So for this our site, on it we have a single page, and that page we have a title for it, and that's what the browser is going to pick as the title of the page, which is going to display on the tab. So when you go to the tab, you are going to see the text there as the title. Currently now this is my tab, and as you can see, the title there is what I use at the title here. The same thing too for every other site. So whatever site that you see and you go to the tab, whatever text you are seeing there, that's the title of the page. Just like this side here that I have Tailwind CSS, V4 beta and so forth like that. So this is what we call title. So the browser will not display it inside this white box or inside this white area. It will use it as the title of the page, which is going to be displayed on top of the browser depending on the type of the browser you're using. As you can see my own, all my tabs they are showing by the side, so the title will appear at the top and it will appear by the side. But your own, you are using Chrome doesn't have this sidebar like this, so everything will always appear at the top, but it's still the same thing. So the browser always use the title, and whatever you put here is have to be text. Whatever you have to put inside your title have to be text. You don't need to put any tag there, because I can see from your assignment there you are using the p tag inside the title. You are not to use it at all. If you put it the way you type it, that is the same way the browser is going to display the stuff, because whatever you want to do, you don't put the tag in the title. If you put it there, the way you type it, that same way you are going to see it as part of the title. So the browser is not going to interpret it at all, because the only thing it will interpret is what is inside the body. Every other thing, it will just display them the way you type it. And as you can see right now, for the title, you see that the p tag that I type is part of the text. The same thing is showing at your end like that. So you don't put any tag inside the title, or you just put the text that you want to use at the title. For example, now we generate our page content by using the shift 1 to bring in the basic structure. Then for the title, what you have there is just normal text. For example, you can just use my first web page like this. So that's just all. Whatever you are going to put inside the title is just a text, not that you'll be putting a tag there. We don't put tag inside title. What you put there is the text that you want to use as the title for that particular page. So we don't put tag. Again too, another one that I noticed when you are creating the page, this your h1, yeah, it's actually correct. Since it's the major heading on that page, you have to use h1, but you did not complete the stuff, because here now I did not see anything about this web page I citing to and this other text. The only thing I can see there is just these two, the h1 here, this heading, and even this one sef. Let me see. Yeah, so it's only one heading that I even have there, which is this heading and great font. So this thing is not complete at all. So everything that you see on this page, they are part of that particular page. They are part of the content that needs to be on the page. And on this page, the first text on the page is heading, and as you can see, is the highest heading on that page. So which means this one here is going to be h1. But if you look at this one too, this is another heading, and again this is another heading. But these two are quite small compared to this first one that we have, this my first web page. So which means this first one is h1 and these other two are the h2, because they are next to the first heading text. They are not big as this first one, so, and they are in line with it, or they are next to it. So which means this one is since this one is h1, it means these other two will be h2. If you have any subheading too that is smaller compared to this, that's going to be your h3, h4, h5, h6, and so forth like that, depending on the level of the heading that you are supposed to work with. So this assignment now is not complete, which is something that you are still going to do later on, because you still need to complete it, but I'm going to give a solution here. So if you look at this page, we have this text, which is this my first web page, so which is going to be our heading text. So we are going to have heading text. So inside the body we have h1 like this. So my let me move this thing side by side so that we can see what is going on there. So you can drag this in side. It's going to my next screen. Let me bring it back. All right, so this should be it. So let me scroll down, move this thing to one side like this, reduce it a little bit, drag it to this side, and we have our page. Let me reduce the PDF. Yeah, so this is the page that we want to work on. So inside the h1, we are going to have this my first web page, and that's the reason why I'm using it too for the title. You can use anything for the title, but I'm using the same text for the title. But after this first text, as you can see, we have this next text. This one too is another heading on its own, but it's quite smaller compared to the first one. So since we've used h1 for the first one, then here I will just use h2 because it's the next heading in line there. And what is the text there? We have headings, grades, font like this. So the next thing we have there is the paragraph. As you can see, this is paragraph. So the next thing we have in line there is paragraph. So how do we put the paragraph there? We can use our p tag. So inside the p tag, as you can see, we have, this is my first paragraph. But if you look at the text paragraph, you see that that particular one is bold. We've talked about it. You can use the p tag to turn it into a bold text. So starting with p, inside the p we have, this is my first. But this paragraph here now is not just normal text. It's not like the other text that is inside the paragraph. It is bold. And I talked about it last time that anytime you want to bold a text that is inside a paragraph, we can use the B, or we can use the strong tag. And I can see from your solution here, you did not, the text are not really complete, so you actually jump into this second one, which is this. Yes, that's right. So you skip this first part, this text that is here, so which is not following what the assignment is asking you to do. So for that one now, we need to use the B, or we can use strong. Any one of them will work, but I will go with this one. So after the B, because the other text now, they are not going to be bold, so we need to go outside of it, which is the same thing that you did, but with another text. So in my new, so the same thing too, this web page that we have here, it is slant. So which means we need to use I or EM to make the text to be in that way. So we have this web page. Then after that again, we have the dots. Then this is going to be great. Then I am so excited I can hardly contain this. Myself too is strong or it's bold. So yeah, I'm going to use strong instead of B tag for us to see that both of them are working. So myself, you can use any one of them. You can use B, you can use strong, and it will still work. So after that, we have this text. Don't you just love paragraph? Every other text is just normal thing, so nothing is here again. I find them very useful. So this is the first thing that you are to do. So for the first paragraph, we have this text there. Let me remove this E. So, and inside it, we have some of the text that is bold, and we have some that is in italic, and you use the correct tag to bring them out. But after this tag, or after this P, or after the paragraph, we have another heading again. But if you look at this heading, it's like this other one that we are calling this headings are great. So since they are the same thing, then here too, we can call our H2 again because they are of the same level. The size of this is the same size of this. So since they are the same size and they look the same, then we are going to use the same tag for them. Not that you just be calling tag anyhow. No, you call a tag or you call a specific tag based on the content that you want to represent. So here too, we're going to have this web pages exciting too. And again, if you look at it, I'm not using B tag inside my H2 or my H1. Why? Because by default, all the text that is inside H1 to H6, they are going to be bold. You don't need to use B tag there. If you use it, it's just waste of typing. Because all the H1 to H6, by default, they are going to have a bold text. By default, all of them, they are going to have bold text. So going back to the page, you can go back to the page now to see the results. And once this thing loads, we should see it. As you can see, I have my first web page, which is our first H1. Then after H1, we have the H2. And as you can see, we have the headings are great. And after that, we have the paragraph, which have all this content along with the bold and italic text that we have here. And again, we have another H2, which is the other text that we have here. And as you can see, the text are bold automatically because they are heading text. That's why I'm calling them heading text. Anytime you use H1 to A6, you don't need to use B. They are bold already. Is when the time you'll be using B is when you are dealing with paragraph or some other tags that we're going to be talking about later on to hold text. So anytime you need something to bold in the normal text there, then you can call your B or the strong like that. But for I, you can actually use I for the H2 because the H2 or H1 or H3 all the way to H6, they are not in a slant form by default. But if any of your heading are in a slant form, then you need to use I there. But for B, you don't need to use B when you are dealing with H1 to H6 because all the text by default, they are bold. So you don't need to do that. But if your text is in a slant form for the heading, you can actually use the I tag or the EM for the heading if it is in slant form. So here too, you see that the text that follows it is just normal paragraph again. So here we can create another P, and inside the P we have yes, which is the one you work on. That's right. So web pages can be a lot of fun like this. So we have learning how to create web pages is easy, and now we need to bold our text. So here too, I'm going to use the B tag to do that. So inside the B, what do we have there? We have entertaining. Then after that, I have the dot. So this is my second this paragraph again. So I'm going to use em here instead of I. No, you can use I or em. Both of them are going to do the same thing. So here we have a paragraph again. Then after the paragraph, we have the dot. I hope you like it. And that's all about the assignment. So this is what the assignment all about. So going back to the page, as you can see, we have the same thing, starting with the title at the top. Then inside the body, we have all the contents that we want to display to the user. So this is how you'll be working anytime you are dealing with a design. You have the design, then all the content that you have there, you use the appropriate tag to translate them to what the browser can understand, because you are going to see a lot of them later on like that. For example, here, how do you create this kind of a table? This is a table. For this table now, later on, you'll be able to create a code that would display this thing on the browser. This is image. You can't just put it directly like that on the browser. You want it to represent as a table. So how do you do it? You call the corresponding tag, and that tag will talk to the browser to display or to arrange things the way you want it to be on the screen. You always use tag to talk to the browser to display content for you on the screen. And as you can see here, we are able to display different text on the screen, and we're able to format them too by using the bold or using the slant form of the text. Again too, assuming the design have underline, we can add that one. But since our design did not have anything like that, that's why it's not part of it. But you can actually underline any text, whether it is heading or it is a paragraph. But don't forget, when you are dealing with your H1 to H6, you don't need to use B tag. It will be like it's already bold. So all your H1 to H6 by default, they are going to give you a bold text. The difference between H1 and H2 is now the size. So if you look at it, H1 is bigger than H2. And since these two of them are H2, then they are going to have the same size. And if I have another heading that is less than that, then I can use H3. So this is another heading for the assignment like this. And save, you see that we're going to have another title down here, or we're going to have another heading down here, but it will be smaller compared to these web pages and this heading that I have at this area. As you can see, it's heading 2, but now it's smaller compared to this two. And again, these two are smaller compared to this first one, because the first one is H1, while these two are H2, and the last one is H3. So the way you see the text will determine the tag you are going to call to represent each one of them. So this is the solution to the assignment, and from there we are going to continue by talking about what we have for today. And what do we have for today? What we have there is how can we link different pages together? How can we link different pages together? So we have all these pages here. So I have this assignment solution, I have this login, and I have this sign up, and I want to connect them together. What do I mean by that? So for example now, let's go to this NaraLand site. So this is NaraLand here, where you can go to read news if you are used to it. So this is a popular site back then, before Twitter and all these things take over. So in Nigeria, this is your number one site that you always go to get about news and interact with other people. And as you can see here, they have different news that you can read about. But if you look at it here, all this thing, it looks like it's something that I can click on. And once you click on it, you see that it leaves this page and it's go to another place to display the full details about the news. And this is what we call linking here. So this is one page, and going back again to the site, you see that this one is displaying another content. This is one content. If you click on anything here, maybe politics, you see that it goes to another place. This is what we call linking of pages together. It's still the same site, or it might not be the same site, because you can actually link to external one too. So linking of pages means you have something you can click on that takes you from one page to another on that same site, or to another site that is not even related to this site at all. For example here, let me go to another site again, because it's not just about this general line. It can happen, or it's something that you always do every time you go to different site. So when you have a site and that site is having different pages, so how do you move from one page to another one? You have to link them together. For example here now, all these items you see by this side, they are linked, which I can use to move to different pages on this side. So if I click on this their logo, this one too is linked. So if I click on it, you see that it will take me to another page. If I click on this button again, it will take me to a separate place. If I click on this showcase, you see that it's displaying another thing entirely, and this is what we call linking. So you have different pages on your site, which is what we have right now. So we have the login page, we have the sign up page, and we have the index page. But now we want to connect them together. So how do you do that? That's where the linking comes in there for the pages. And in order for you to connect different pages together using HTML, we have a tag known as anchor tag. So when you want to connect different pages together, whether it's on that site or to another site, we have something known as anchor tag, which is what you can call a tag for short. Normally you just say a tag, but the full meaning of a tag is just anchor, like that. So that's where the name is coming from, a tag. So a tag or anchor tag is what we use to create this stuff. But before we get there, which I'm going to bring it out, I need to talk about what is attribute in HTML, because this thing is very important for the tag we want to use right now. This is the tag. But once I press enter here now, as you can see, something in this yellow. What is this yellow stuff doing there? But that's where the attribute comes in. But right now, let me just link to login page. So again, too, the same a tag is what we are going to use to take the user to sign up page. So look at it. I have this a tag, which is what I'm using to link user from one page to another page. And going back to the screen, once this thing is done loading, you see that we are going to have this link. As you can see here, this is the anchor tag working. So when you click on this, it's supposed to take us to the login page. And when you click on this, it's supposed to take us to the sign up page, because that's the text we have there. But now, if I click on it, as you can see, it's still working on this page. I click on sign up, it's not going to that sign up page. It's still displaying this page. Why? Because by default, the a tag will not take you to the text that you actually put here. It's based on whatever you pass inside this href here. Where you are going to anytime the user click on the link is depending on what you pass into this href here. But what is that href? That's what we call attribute. So the href we are seeing here is what we call attribute. Look at it too on the HTML. So what is attribute? Attributes are there for us to supply extra information to the tag. So we use attributes to supply extra information to your tag. And this extra information is what the tags will use to know what they are supposed to do based on what you are doing with them. So there are some tags that can behave in different way, or they can do multiple things. So how do you talk to them now? Okay, you, this a tag, you go to login page. Okay, you, this a tag, you go to sign up page. You need to give them extra information. And what's that extra information? The page that you want to take them to. That page you want to take them to, so you need to talk to this a tag that this is the page you have to go to. So how do you talk to them? We use attributes to give them this extra information. And different HTML tag come with their own different attributes that you can use on them. I'll be explaining each one of them one by one anytime we get to the time we need them. And one of them that we need right now is this href that we have on this a tag. So the href is the attribute that you are going to use to talk to the a tag or point the a tag to the page you want to take the user to anytime someone click on that link. So when the user click on the link, where do you want to take them to? This href is what you are going to use to talk to the a tag where you are taking the user to. And where do we want to take the user to? We want to connect to this our sign up or this login that is part of our site. So since it's part of our site, what you just need to do here is to mention the name and the extension of the page that you want to connect to once they are together, because later on you are going to see that they can be separated. But for now, the pages that we want to connect to, they are inside the same folder, which is this HTML. And when they are inside the same folder and you want to connect them together, just mention the name of the file along with the extension. So what we are saying here is that a tag, this particular a tag that is on line 17 here, we want you to take us to a particular page. But what's that page? So we are passing it into this href, and the name of the page is this login.html. So which means anytime we click on this text, it will take us to this file, which is the page that we want to see. So for the sign up too, if you want to instruct this A to take you to that page, what we can do here is to just pass in the sign up then .html here. So the two of them now knows what to do. We've given them the extra information that they need from us. The first one, the extra information is this login.html. So once someone click on you, go to this file. Anytime someone click on you for the second one, go to this file, and so forth like that. And that's what the attribute is all about. Attribute is what you'll be using to supply extra information to your tag, and it have this look, as you can see. So these attributes, they have this pattern where you have the attribute name. So this is the name of the attribute. Then everything inside the quote is what we call attribute value. So some of them doesn't have value, some of them have value, but majority of the attribute that we're going to be working on, they actually have value, and they follow this pattern. They are always after the tag. So you are going to have the tag, then after the tag you have the attribute name, then in front of the equal to sign you are going to have the value of the attribute. So let me scroll up so that you see a lot of them in action, which is being used already inside the edge. If you look at it, some of these tags, they are being repeated, but they are doing separate stuff. How did they know what to do? Is because of the attribute that is passed to them. Look at this. This is another attribute here. This is the tag, which is meta, which I'm going to be explaining later on when we get to the CSS part, because we don't need it right now. So what is this one? This is the attribute. This is the tag. But this tag, as you can see, is being used again on line 5. So how is this one going to know that the work I'm supposed to do is this? How is the one on line 5 is going to know the work to do? Is through the attribute. So through the attribute, you give them extra information to explain to them that this is how you are going to behave, or this is what you are going to do for me in this code. So we use attributes to supply extra information, and they come in this variant, or they come in this version here. You have the one with the value, and you have the one that does not have value. So look at this. This is one of the attributes here, but this one did not have value. So it's just the name of the attribute. But here, if you look at it, this one is, the name is lang, while the value is en. So the name here is this cassette. The value is UTF-8. Here now, the name is name, the value is vport. Here, the name is content, and the value is all the same that is inside it. So we use attributes to supply extra information to the tag, and based on that, they can behave in different way. And you are going to see a lot of them when we get to the next class, when we are dealing with form, because we are going to be talking more about form in the next class. And as you can see, when you are dealing with form, there's a lot of attributes you need to specify, because you are going to be using the same thing to generate different elements. But how is this thing going to know which element you want to generate? You talk to it through the attribute there. And as you can see, you have the attribute name and you have the attribute value, which is always in quotes. But some of them, the attribute doesn't need value. For example, here now, this is one attribute of this input. As you can see, I don't need to pass value because it doesn't it doesn't have value, and the value is going to be there by default is this. Anytime you see any attribute that doesn't have value, this is what is going to put there automatically. But you don't need to specify it. That's what it's going to do behind the scenes. So we have attributes that requires value, that you need to pass value in this way, and we have some of them that you don't need to put value at all. But what is disable, what is type, what is placeholder? When we get to the time we are dealing with form, I'm going to explain all of them. But in general, your tag can take attributes. And what do you use attribute for? We use it to supply extra information to the tags. So based on that attribute, the tags knows what to do or what to generate on the page. based on that extra information that you supply to it. And that's what we are doing with this our A tag here. So the A tag is what you can use to link different pages together or different sites together. So how do you now talk to this first A to go to this site, or how do you talk to the second one to go to this page? That's where this attribute href comes in. So this attribute href is what you use to give the page that information, and based on that information, it's going to know what to do anytime the user click on the link. So now if I click on this login page, as you can see now, once this thing, oh, I've not saved it, so let me save the code first, and let me reload the page. So as you can see now, clicking on the login page, can you see it will take us to the login. Why is it working? Is because we've given the A tag the information that it needs on how to take us from one page to another page, or to take us from one website to another website. So whatever you put inside the href, that's where you want to take the user, or that's what you want to do anytime the user click on the link. The same thing too, we are using A tag, but now if you click on sign up, you see that that one is going to sign up. Even though it's the same tag that we are using, they are doing separate stuff. How did they know what to do? Is through the attribute, which is this href that we use to talk to the A tag where to take the user to. And you can use this one too to link to any site that you know on your page. For example, now I can link to Nairaland, but you need to get the address of Nairaland because Nairaland is not part of your site. The reason why we are using the name login.html and signup.html here is because they are part of our file here. So as you can see, there is signup.html and there is login.html. But here now, there is nothing like Nairaland here. So we are not the owner of Nairaland. So we need to get the link to Nairaland. And how do you get the link? It's quite easy. Just go to any site. In the address bar, this is the link that you are going to pass into the href. So when you are connected to any other site, this is how you get the link. Just go to the site, copy the link, and then you paste it inside the href. So if it is the Nairaland that I want to go to directly, this is the address. So just copy the link there and paste it inside the href. So now inside the A tag, this is where you put the content that you want to show to the user. So whatever text or whatever content that you put inside this A tag, that's what the user is going to see, or that's what they are going to click on, that will now take them to that page. And you can put anything there. It can be video, it can be image, it can be anything there. And once the user click on it, it will take them to whatever you pass inside this href. So here now we can just say go to Nairaland site. So this is the text that I want to display on the screen. And once this one is saved and it gets to the page, you see that we are going to have another A tag beside these two. And as you can see, we have this Nairaland. And once you click on it, you see that this one will now take us to Nairaland straight there. So this is how A tag works. A tag can be used to link different pages together. It's what you use online too when you want to download. Anytime you click on a button to download, behind the scene, what is just there is this A tag. But because they use CSS to style it, that's why it looks like button, which is something I can do too. There that you see that it's just normal text that they turn into a button, and you are going to have a taste of this thing once we get into CSS later on. But I just want to quickly show you so that you see that everything you are seeing online is just all this thing that are there. There is no magic. Once you understand this thing, any site you see, you already know what they are doing there. So if I want to turn my button, like all this A tag now, to button, I can turn them to that. For example, I can quickly use this. Let me quickly do some of this CSS stuff. What am I typing right now? You are going to get them when we get to the CSS part later on, like that. So let me just use all this stuff like this. But what am I typing? You get them when we get to the CSS later on. So now let me save it. I'm coming, remove one. Yeah, so save. And once this thing get to the page, you see that all this my text that is linked, everything will look like button. Even though technically they are not button and we have a tag for that. Can you see them? It now looks like button. They are jam packed together because there is no space. Can you see? They are just normal text. But with CSS, I transform them to what is going on here. But later on, When we get to the CSS part, you are going to know what is margin, what is background, what is padding, radius, and so forth like that. That's what we're going to be dealing with when we get to the CSS part later on. But for now, everything will just be text. You just look at text. But once you get to CSS, you see that thing will start looking nice on the page because we want them to look like the way it is from the design. But for now, there is no thing like that. So we don't want anything like that. So let me save this and go down back to what we are doing. And again too, if you notice what is going on here, look at all the text. Look at the way I type them from the code. Look at the way I type them from the code. In the code, if you look at it, you see that everything is on a separate line. But on the page, they are on the same line. Look at what I did here. Everything is on their own separate line. But after getting to the page, they are now on the same line. You might be wondering what is going on there. This is another thing about HTML. I mentioned it last time. The way you type this stuff, that is not the same thing is going to appear on the screen because each one of these tags, they have what they are doing. And what is going on here is if you look at our P tag, as you can see, this one is on its own line. But when they get to the A tag, they are not on separate line. They are not together. What we call here is known as inline elements. So in HTML, we have these two major type of display that we have there. We have inline and we have block. You are going to see a lot of other display when we get to CSS. But for now, we have inline elements and we have block elements. So what is inline element? These are elements that always occupy the space of the content that is inside them. Look at it. This login page now, this is the content that's inside it. So that's where it will stop. And it will allow every other content to take their own space. Yeah, so as I was saying there, we have inline elements and we have block element. And what are block element? Block element always stand on their own, no matter the content you have inside it. There. For example, if I have this H1 here, and if I only have one content inside it, and I have another thing beside it, every other thing beside it, we always go to another line. This is what we call block. They always occupying, can you see? Even though it's my printer that move it to another line, because you see that it's useless at that place. But block element don't allow anything to come side by side with them. Even though the content here, you can see that it's just one content. So we assuming that this one's supposed to go beside it. No, it will not work because H1 to A6 and our paragraph, they are block element. They always take up their own line. They don't allow any other content to come side by side with them. But when you're talking about inline, all this one, they always allow other inline elements to go side by side with them because they only take up the space of the content that is inside them. Like this login page now, this is the only content that is there. So this is where it stops. And that's this one you see that the other one continue from the remaining space there. So this one to stop here, that's the only space it's going to take. It will allow any other content too that is inline to take whatever space that they want. But if there is no space, that's when it will now look as if they are going to the next line. So if I reduce this thing now, as you can see, go to another line site. The site has moved to next line because there is no enough space to accommodate them. But if we have enough space, as you can see, they are always on one line. That's why we call it inline. They are always on one line. So anytime you are dealing with inline element, they are always on one line. They don't take up their own space. They will only take the space of the content that is inside them. But if there is no space, that's where they will now look as if they move to next line. They do not move, it's wrapping to next line. So it's known as wrapping to next line because they can't take the entire space. So inline element, they always go side by side, just like the way you are seeing it. But block element, they always stand on their own. They will always be on a separate line. Each block element will only be on their own separate line. And what are the block element? All the H1 to A6, all the paragraph, they are inline, they are block element. All the paragraph, all the H1 to H6, they are block. But the B tag, so the B tag, and that's the reason why you see that this is they are not going to separate line. The B tag, the strong tag, the EM tag, the I tag, the U tag, they are inline. So they are inline means that they goes along with the other content. Whatever you put inside them, That is the only space they are going to take, and they will allow other content to go side by side with them. So some of the example of inline is this B tag, the I tag, the EM, the strong, and this A tag. So all the A tag, they are inline. So which means they always take the space of the content that is inside them, and every other content that are inline can go side by side with them. If you can see sample here now, if I use the B tag, testing like this, or testing inline, you see that all of them will still going to be on one line, even though I'm putting them on a separate line. So all the B tag, all the I tag, can you see, they are always on one line because they are known as inline element. They don't take the entire line that you put them. They will only take the space of the content that is inside them. So this is what we call inline element, and the A tag is one of them. We have a lot of inline element. You are going to be seeing them a lot later on, but A tag, the B, the strong, the I that we've talked about, all of them are inline. They don't go to next line. They always maintain the line that you put them. But how do you force a break? How do you force a break? Because this A tag now, I want them to be on a separate line. So for now, how do you break them into separate line? So how do you talk to the browser to actually arrange them like this, the way you type it in the code? So that's where this tag comes in, which is known as BR. So BR is the break line, and what it's doing here is that it's a self-closing tag, so it closes itself. So what BR does is that everything that follows it will always move to next line. Anywhere you use BR, whatever that follows it, it will break that line. That's its own job. The job is that wherever you use BR, it is going to create a line in between the content that comes before it and the one that comes after it. So the one that comes before it is this A tag. The one that comes after it is this another A tag. So what we are saying here is that to the browser that once you get to the page, this A tag should be on its own separate line. And once this is saved here now, you see that our sign up now will go to another line. Login page is on its own line. Sign up page too is on its own line. And if you want the another line too to go to its own line, then we need to use another BR here. You always put the BR in between the content that you want to stay on one particular line and the one that will go to next line. It doesn't need to be on a separate line. You don't need to move to the next line like this. Don't forget tag. We talk to the browser what to do. Even though they are on the same line, that doesn't mean when you get to the page, it will still be on one line. No, it will break it, because that is the job of that tag. And he doesn't see anything on the page. His own job is to break the content into two. That's just what it's there for. So anytime you need to move something to another line, and you see that it is inline for now, because when we get to CSS later on, you are going to see a better way of doing this thing. But for now, when you want to move any inline element to a separate line, you always put BR in between them. When you want to move any element that is inline to a separate line, even if it's not inline, if it's inside paragraph 2 or inside any tag that we've talked about, if you want to move it to a next line, you always use BR. It doesn't care where you put it. Wherever you put BR, it will always break that stuff. So here we use. So since we have BR in between use and attribute, it means it will cut this in into two. Attribute will move, or the other text that follows it will move to next line. This is what we have. We use attribute. Everything is on one line. But now that I've put the BR there and save, you see that the content will always go to next line automatically. That's its own job. Wherever you put it, it will break the stuff into two. Every other thing that follows it will go to next line, and the one that comes before it will stay the line that you place it. Whatever that comes before that BR will stay on that line, and everything that follows BR will go to another line. So that is the job of BR. We use it to break lines. That's the BR, break line. Its own job is to break whatever stuff that is beside it. So whatever that comes after it, we always go to next line. And that's what I'm using for this A tag, so that we can have them on a separate line. By default, all the inline elements, they are always on one line. But if you want them to be on a separate line, you can use this BR for now to separate them or to move them to a separate line. But later on, we're going to see a better way to handle this thing when we are dealing with CSS, and it gives us more things that we can, or properties we can use to manipulate the content on the page, to change the styling. So here I have my A, and the A is what you can use to connect different pages or different sites together. On this our site, I can go to login page, and at the same time I can go to the sign up page. And from sign up page too, if you want to go back to that page, for example this is login page, we should be able to go back to our home page too. So we can go into this our login page. Where's my login page? So let me open the file. So login page, and there too, for now I can just use my A tag too after this button. So I will have the A tag, and what is going to be inside the A tag, we want to go back to index.html. Why am I calling index? Because that is the page I want to go back to. Whatever page you want to go back to and it's part of your site and they are inside the same place, just mention the name of the file and the extension. That's how to link. We are dealing with the simple one. We still have some other linking that we'll be talking about later on, but for now, when you are linking any page that you put inside the same folder together, because here now all this my file, they are inside this HTML, and since they are inside this HTML, what I just need to do is to mention the name of the file and the extension of that file. It's very important. The extension is very important. So since the file I want to connect to, as you can see, this is it here. The name is index.html. So I want to connect to it. So what do? Call the A tag. In the href, you pass the name of the file that you want to connect to, and inside the A tag, in between the opening and the closing, you supply the content that you want to display to the user on the screen. So what do you want to display to the user on the screen? You are going to put it inside this A tag. This can be image, can be video, it can be anything later on. That's why I'm calling it content. I'm not saying text. It can be anything, but right now I'm using text. So, but it can be anything that you can click on, and it's going to be a link like this Naira line now. As you can see, all these images, they are linked. So if you click on them, they are going to take you to a page. So it can be anything that you put inside the A tag. Naira land here now, instead of using text, can you see what they put there? Image. But for all this one, they are using text. So it all depends on the design that you are working on. But since we are just starting, we don't know how to include image yet. So we are using text on our page to represent the link. So inside this A now, what I will just put here is go home page like this. So home page. So this is what I will just put inside it. And once this thing is done loading, as you can see, we are going to have the A tag there. And once I click on it, as you can see, it will go back to our home page, which means our login page and our home page are now connected together. So from home page, I can go to login. From login, I can go back to the home page. And we can do the same thing too for sign up. And this thing can be placed anywhere. Doesn't need to be down. So I'll place the A tag at the top here. So this one is going to go to index again because that's what we want to go to. And for the text, I will not use home page here. I will just say go back like that and save. And once this thing is saved, yeah, so click on sign up, and once it's get there, as you can see, we have the text. So this thing doesn't need to, whatever you are putting inside your A tag doesn't need to match where you are taking the user to. And that's why you see that it's easier to scam people online. They will put a text that you have one iPhone, whatever stuff. So, but once you click on it, it's going to another place. It's because the content that you are putting inside the A doesn't need to match the link that you are connecting to. So you can just type, okay, click on this to win iPhone, for example. Click to win iPhone, whereas you know that this thing is not going to give you any iPhone. Once you click on it, it's just going back to our index. So you can put anything here, but the actual stuff or where you want to take the user to is whatever you have inside the href. So once you click to win iPhone, as you can see, it takes us back to that page. So that's what you see online, that you'll be seeing that click here to win iPhone. Congratulations, you have win so stuff. Or when you go to pages to download some music or something, they will tell you to click on this link to download. Whereas when you click, it's not downloading anything from you. It's not taking you to another page. It's because they are using this A tag, and that A tag, what they pass inside the href is different from the text or the content they are showing to you. So that's how this thing works behind the scene. There is no magic there. This is what is just going on there like that. So you can connect different pages or sites together. How do you do it? Use your A tag, pass the link that you want to take the user to, and in between the A tag, you specify the content that the user have to click in order for them to get to that particular link that you put inside the href. So A tag are inline element They don't stand on their own. They goes along with the other inline element. If you want to move them to a separate line for now, you can use the BR element to do that. So quickly before our time runs out, so we're going to be talking about list in HTML. That's the next thing we need to talk about. So what is list? So look at this file again. This is what we call list in HTML. So when you want to itemize some item, we have a tag that you can use to do something like that. And we have, this is a list of items, but if you look at it, look at what it's using to do the list. And this is another type of list, but look at what it's using for the list. Again, too, look at this one. Look at what it's using for the list. So how do you generate something like this? That's where the list comes in HTML, because there are some pages you want to work on. You want to list some item, or you are creating a CV. You create a site that display your CV like this, and as you can see, you can have the list of skills that you want to showcase to the user there. So how do you do something like this that we have on the page? So this is one list on its own, and this is another list. Again, this is another list. This is another list, and inside this list we have another list there, which is known as nested list. But if you look at it, one is using this dot dot, one is using number. So how do you generate this kind of a list on your page using HTML? That's where the list comes in there like that. And I've already prepared a page for that, so we need to connect to that page. So I'm going to create a link here too, but before I create a link, let me use BR so that I can be on another line. So I'll create another page or another link to that page. So inside the href, I call it link.html. So that is the name of, oh no, I call it list, because this file is here already. Not that you just call anything anyhow. It's here already. So the list.html is here already. So if it's not there, if you link to anything that is not there, you are going to get error. So list in HTML. For example, now let me type something that is not even there at all. So let me just type let's say naraland.html. There is also like naraland.html in my file here. So what it will be looking for is naraland here. We're looking for naraland.html, because it's quite different from this. This is the address of naraland, but here I did naraland.html, so it will be looking for the file in our folder here. But since we don't have anything like that, you see that it will give us error once we click on the link. Once we click on the link, it will look for it, and if you cannot find it, can you see it's looking for naraland.html inside this folder. So if you pass anything that you did not understand, you get error. So you have to connect to a correct page, and the correct page that I have there is a list. So save, and going back to the page again, clicking on it, and now this thing should take us to the correct page, which is a list in HTML. So how do you create a list in HTML? We have two major type of lists in HTML. We have ordered list. So any list that you see that is using 1, 2, 3, ABC, Roman figure, you are going to see them, that we're going to be generating them soon, are there. And they are known as ordered list. So they are known as ordered list. So it's known as ordered list. And the other one that we have here is known as this unordered. So the other one we have there is known as unordered. So the unordered is the one that use something known as bullet. So all these dots or the square and so forth like that. So you can change them later on when we get to the CSS part. But for now, this is how the list is going to come outside for the ordered, and for the unordered, it uses this circular dict by default that is filled here. So list is used when you want to itemize or when you want to list out some items like your skills, the places you visited, or the list of students and so forth like that, the list of school, the list of polling units. You have a site that display list of schools that are coming from the occasion and so forth like that. So you are going to be using list. And how do you generate list in HTML? We have ordered list. So for the ordered list, we have this OL, and for the unordered list, we have this ul. As you can see, all these tags, they are coming from their name. Ordered, O and L join together, we form the tag. For the unordered, U and L jump together, form the tag. Most of all the tags we have been talking about, they are coming from their name. So heading level 1, H1. Paragraph, we have P. Bold, we have B. Italics, we have I, and so forth like that. So BR, we have break line. So almost all these tags, what they are doing is based on their name. But some of them did not actually follow that. But for now, almost all the tags we'll be talking about, they follow their name exactly the way you will pronounce the stuff there, like that. You just shorten by picking some letters there and join them together. And to create this type of list that you are seeing here, you'll be using OL. To create this type of list that you are seeing here, you are going to be using UL to create the list. For example, here we have student list. So we have the list of students. So raster classes for March. So I want to list out all my classes for March. So here now I want to have the list. So for the OL, inside it, how do you now generate the items? So to generate each one of the items, this is what we call items here. So each one of them is what we call item. This is one item, this is another item. Again too, this is one item and this is another item. So whether you are generating ordered on order list, you are going to be generating the item. And inside the OL and UL, to generate the item, we have LI, which is known as list item. So LI, L there is list, I is item. Join together, you have your tag. So LI is what you are going to use to generate each one of the items. So my first class is going to be meet with Abubakar, like this. Then the second one on the list is going to be this. So I'm going to be meeting, so meet with Banti. So another person I will be meeting with in March is going to be, so meet with this. And then again, Li, another person I will be meeting with, so meet with like this. So save and get to the page. You see that all these items are going to be listed out on the page using the numbering system. As you can see, I have the list. Meet with this, meet with this, meet with this. And as you can see, the number will keep increasing based on the way you arrange your list. So if I move this one to the top, you see that was going to be number 1 now, not what is there before. So this thing, the number, will be generated for you automatically by the browser. And in order for you to get the number, you have to use Li in your OL or in your UL. So whether you are using OL or you are using UL, you are going to use Li to generate the items that you want to display on the screen. And once the Li is used under OL, it will give you number by default, but you can change it. But if it is not this type of list that you want, then you can generate the other one too. You see the same thing. The difference between them is just this OL that we used before. So instead of OL, then it's going to be UL like this. So save, and you see that we're going to have the same type of list, but now the numbering system is different, or the way it's applying the style is quite different. So for the UL, by default, it's going to be number like this, but you can change it to ABC, or you can change it to Roman figure, which I'm going to show you soon. But for this one, for you to change it, you have to use CSS to change it to another type of bullet. But this one can be changed through HTML using attributes. By now you know what is attribute. You use it to talk to your tag to behave in different ways. So here now, instead of me using 1, 2, 3, which is what this thing is using by default, we can talk to this OL to use another type of numbering system, which is the one that you have here. You can use ABC, that means letter ABC in capital letter or in small letter, or you can use Roman figure to number in capital letter or in capital or in small Roman figure there. So this OL actually have these attributes, and the name of the attribute is known as type. Can you see? So through these attributes, we can talk to this OL to behave in different way. What is using by default is what you see here, 1. So which means it's going to start the numbering by using the numeral there, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and so far like that. But what if you don't want to use this? We can give it another value. So here now we are talking to this OL, or we are giving it extra information on how to generate the number. Now it's not going to use 1, 2, 3 again. You see that it will now start using A, B, C, D, and so forth like that. So attribute is what you use to talk to your tag to behave in different way, because some of them, they can do things in different way. But how do you talk to them to behave differently? You use attributes. Attribute is what you are going to use to talk to your element to behave differently. But what are the attributes you use? I'll be explaining them one by one, just like what I'm doing here, or what I did with the A tag. Because you don't just use them anyhow like that. You can't just take type now and you can put it on H3. It will not do anything, because H3 does not have anything like this. You don't just use attribute anyhow. You use them on the correct element. If you use them on the wrong element, the page will not do anything. The browser will not do anything, or you not see anything, or you not see any changes on the page. As you can see here now, there is no changes on this our H3, because the H3 is not expecting this attribute from us. So each one of these attributes, you are going to use it on the correct tag, not that you just use the attribute anyhow. So the one you need to use for a particular tag, I'll be mentioning them as we are dealing with the tag, or the one that are necessary for me to explain, because we have a lot of tags and we have a lot of attributes too that you can use. So each one of them that I'm going to be explaining are what you need, not just explaining all of them, because if you say we should be explaining everything, we not leave HTML at all. We not move to other language that we have there. So if you don't want to use this, you can use capital A to talk to it that it should be in capital letter instead of small letter, or you can use I for Roman figure, like that, small I for the small Roman number, or capital I for the capital Roman figure, in case you need this type of numbering. Or you can actually do some other stuff here. As you can see, I have start, but this one will make sense once I use one, like that. So when you say start, you can talk to it too that where do you want the number to start counting from. Now by default, counting starting from 1, but if I want, I can just give it that let's give it 100 like this, and save. Can you see the counting is started from 100, 101, 100. So through attributes, you can talk to your element to behave the way you want it to do, or to do something else based on whatever you pass into it. But you don't just pass them anyhow, you pass the correct attribute. And it's not just one attribute you can supply. As you can see here, I'm giving it 2. Some of them will take 3, 4, 5, and so forth like that. Look at this input now. I'm giving it how many? 1, 2, 3. So it all depends on the element you are working on and the attributes that it requires are there. Some of them are required, some of them are not. Like all this one now, you don't need to supply all these attributes. As you can see, this OL is working. The other one too are working because it's not required. But in case you need them, you can now bring it in. But there are some elements that they will not function until you pass some of these attributes there. And when we get to that part, I will explain them there like that. By default, the start is just 1. If you don't supply it, it's default to 1. And that's the reason you see that the counting is from 1, or you can supply where you want this thing to start counting from, and that's where it's going to pick the counting, and it will continue from there like that. So that's how this thing works. So this is what we call this list. But before I go, I'm supposed to explain the nested, but nested right now we don't really need it, so I will skip it because I want to explain how we can include a media too on our page, because this class I've gotten to 1 hour already, and I don't want the video to be too large, because the higher the length of the class, the more is going to create the size for the upload there. So before we get to one something, so let's quickly talk. This one can come in later on. It's not the major thing right now. The major stuff are what I've already explained here, because what we have up here is what we just add more things to it to create this nested list. And what is nested list? When you are talking about nested list, this one is talking about you putting one list inside another list. So this is what we call nested list here. So this is what we refer to as nested list. So if you look at it, we have this bullet list, but inside each one of the bullet list, we now have this other nested one. So this is what we call nested list. So how do you create this kind of a list? We'll be talking about it in the other coming classes when we need it. But for here now, this is the only assignment. So this assignment you are going to work on are there for the next thing there. So this is the next assignment you are going to work with. I will send the file to you because you don't have the file. This is week 2 slide, but I will be sending to you, and it's on this page here, page 16. That's where you're going to see the only this first one you are going to work on. Forget about the second one. There. This is the first one you are going to work on. This other one can come in later on there like that. But for now, this is the one you are going to work on as assignment to put everything together. But before we call it a day, we need to talk about how we can include media. And what do I mean by media? This is something like the images, audio, video, etc. there. That's what we call media. Just like the way you see it on site these days. Almost all the sites that you are going to see these days, they always have this form of media going on there. It's not like these olden days that everything is always text. We need media too. We need something visual to, see what is going on. So look at this site here. As you can see, there's some visual going on this side, like their logo, like all these images that you see here. How do we include something like this too, like this Google logo? How do we include something like this too on our page? Or go back to Nairaland. As you can see, they have all these images for their adverts where they display all this stuff. So how can we connect to images like this too, or any images that we have locally or that is coming from online? Because your image can either come from online, or your resources can come from online, or is something that you already have locally. And what I mean by locally means that you have it in the folder or in the project you are working on. That's local. But when you are connecting to online to get that resources, we call it external. Or when you are getting it from another site, it is known as external. But when you are getting it from the site, or you already have it in your project, they are known as internal. Because I will be using this thing a lot later on. Internal, external. When I'm talking about internal, it means it's part of your project. So what you want to connect to is part of your project. But when it is external, it means it's not part of your project. It's coming from another site, or it's coming from online in general. So that's what we call external. And that's what we're going to use for the image. So this image that is here now, I want to use it. And to get the links to any image, just like the way you can get the link to any page that you visited in the address bar, you can get the link to any image by right clicking on it, and you are going to see copy image link, not save. If you want to have it locally, you can save and you move it to your project. It's part of your, but now I don't want to save it. I just want to get the address to that link. So I can just click on this copy image link. But how do we display it on our own page? How do we display it on our own page? So in order for you to display any image on your own page, you have to use this img tag. So we use img tag to display image. As you can see, img is just coming from image. So that's what they shortened down to. But if you look at it now, look at this thing, it comes with these two attributes. But the major one is just this src. Because now if I save it, you see that you will not see anything on the screen. So going back to our index page, reload it, scroll down to where we have the media. There, can you see? Nothing is showing. Why is it not showing? It's because of what I mentioned that time. Some elements will not work until you supply some of these attributes that they are expecting from you. If you don't use the attribute they are expecting from you, you are not going to see anything. And one of them is this image, which requires this src. And what is src? That's the source of the image. So the image that you want to display to the user, where is it coming from? So that's what that src is there for. And you can think of this source as the same thing as link that you are passing to this href here. So where is the image coming from? Where is the address? Is it locally like this, or is something that is coming from online? So you pass the address of where that image is coming from inside this src. So the link that I copy online, as you can see, I've gotten the link from that Nairaland. To get any link on any site, go to that link, just right click on it, you see it on the browser. If it's something that you can copy, you are going to see the option to copy image link, not copy image. If you copy image, you are copying the image directly, not the link of the image, because we need the link what you have to be passing into the SRC is the link, not the actual image. So it is the browser that will now go to this link and fetch the image and display it to the user. And once we go back to our page and reload or save the stuff, you see that this thing will go to Naraland or the wherever that thing is coming from, and it's going to display the media for us. So as you can see here, we too we have the image, but this image we don't have access to it. It's not part of our project. We are getting it from external source, and our external source here is this Naraland. So if I want to display this last image too, just right click on it, or any image, just go online, search for any image, right click on that image. You see this option to copy the link to that image. Then for you to display it on your page, what do? Just go to wherever you want to put it, and the next thing you do is to use this img tag. And once you type this img tag inside this src, which is the attribute, you pass the link to that image. So save, and the browser will go to that link and it will bring your image for you on the page. If you pass this thing to a tag, you can pass it to a tag too, but now instead of it to display it for you, it's going to download it. So if you pass any other thing to a that is not page, it's going to download it for you. So here now we can just say download image. So now we create our own download button there like that. So save. So when you're using a and you pass the link to any other resources that is not page, it will download it for you. So now once this thing is done loading and it gets to the page, you see that we are going to have the link. It will not be showing it again. As you can see, it's not showing. But now if I click on it, it will download it for us. Can you see? It will download the stuff for you. But if you want to see the image on the site itself, then you have to use img. If you want to create a download link, you use a tag, then you pass the link of the image as the href. So it will download it for the user. But if you pass it to the image, then it will display it on the page to the user. But look at what just happened now. Can you see that each one of they are now displaying side by side? So this thing is telling you now that image 2 is inline. So image are inline. So they take up the space of the image you are working with. If the image is large, it will only take up that space. If the image is not large, then as you can see here, the three of them, they are now side by side. But reducing this thing, you see that they are on a separate line. The reason they are on a separate line is because there is no space. The image is really large already. So for this space of the window. But once I expand the browser, as you can see, we have enough space. And since there is no space, they will go side by side. But notice that if you don't want it to be side by side, what can you do? You use BR in between them. But what is this alt? What is this alt? Which is this ALT? This ALT is known as alternative. So this is what we are alternative here. So that's what that attribute is all about. And what is it doing there? What that attribute is doing is that, what if this image is not showing? Just like what happened before, that we don't have any link. What do you want to show to the user? So when the link is missing, that means the source is missing, or something wrong with the source, or the link that you pass is no more there, or the image has been deleted. What do you want to display to the user? Which text do you want to display to the user? That's what this alt is here for. So this is what we call alternative. So alternative text to show. So alternative text to show when the image is not loading. So the time this thing will only show is when the image is not loading. So you will not see it at all on the page until you have a link that has broken. Like if the link is broken, that's the only time you see this alt. It will only come outside when this image is not showing or the link has changed. For example, now let me just add random text to the link, which is going to make it invalid. So now if I save it and run it again, can you see that it's not showing? That's where the text will now come outside. If this alt is not there, you will not even see anything at all. So if I remove this alt and I just save it, you see that nothing will be displayed at all because the stuff cannot load the image. And since it cannot load the image, then you are not going to see anything because this thing is wrong. So that's where we have this alt to display to the user that, oh, something is missing. And as you can see, something like that was used on this side when I was showing you moving around. Can you see this side? As you can see, there is one image that's supposed to be here, but because the link is not working again, that image is not showing. But assuming they are using alt text, you are going to see the text being displayed here or like that. So anytime you see this thing, it means the image that they are supposed to show here is broken, or whatever the link that's supposed to be there is no more there again. So the image is not shown, and since the image is not showing, then you not see anything. But you want to still display the text to the user so that they can know that, oh, even though the image is not displaying, oh, this is the what the image is representing. So that's what the auth is always there for. The auth is just to display a text for the user when that a particular image is not loading on the page. So whatever person that is visiting this site, we know that, oh, this is what they want to display. But because the image, something is wrong with that image, so it's not displaying at this moment, at that time. So that's what this auth is there for. I will not be putting it. What I will be always be using is source. But when you are working in recents, it's always good that you put the text you want to show when the link is not showing. And that's how this thing works like that. So this is where I'll be stopping for today. This is where I'll be stopping. But in the next class, we're going to go more into that by talking about form in the next class. So this thing that I have on this our login page. So let me go back to the login page. You can see on our login page here, I have this box where the user can type. But if you look at the second box, it's not showing what the user is typing. But if you look at the code that I'm using to generate that, the same thing that I use for this first one is the same tag that I'm using for the second one, but they are behaving in different way. We've talked about that one, which is attributes. So through the attributes, that's where you can talk to element to behave in different way, and they are going to do whatever you want it to do. But we are going to be talking more about this in the next class, and if there is time, we are going to dive into the table in HTML, and after that we have one more extra class for the HTML, and that extra we have two more classes for HTML. Then after that we are moving into CSS. Not that we are done with the HTML. These are just the basic stuff we need for the HTML, but as we move to CSS, other HTML will start coming in when we are dealing with the stuff, because we can't just sit down on HTML. What we need is the basic one, because all of them follow the same pattern. But once we are done with the basic one that we always need, then when we get to the CSS, every other one that needs to come in will start coming out. Again too, when we get to JavaScript, the one we still need to bring in again will start coming in. But majorly, most of the time, all the one we want to talk about for all these classes is what you always use. 90% of the time, everything that we've started with in this HTML to the next two classes that is remaining is what you always use a lot. Every other one is just addition. Majorly, you always work on all this one that I'm talking about, and that's why I'm putting more attention on them like that. So that's going to be all for this class. But the assignments you are going to be working on, I'm going to share the invite to you. I'm going to share the file to you because it's part of the second lesson. Let me share the stuff right now. It should be, yes. So pick document, and please, anytime you don't understand anything when you are doing the assignment, always screenshot it to me, and I will come in, and because as it is what the assignment is there for, to put it, not just listening alone. So this thing is not just about listening alone. You have to do it yourself. That's how you learn. In this world, or in this our own world, the way you learn is by using your hand to type this thing, not just watching the video or listening to the class alone. You have to use your hand to type them, because that's how the thing will stick to your head. You can just know about them, but later on when you just after the video you just forget. But once you type it, anytime you want to do anything, it will always come back. That's how it works here. That's why the assignments are very important. So it's on line 16. This slide is all about what we'll be talking about for this class and next two classes. You can go over the slide to know more about all this thing in text, but you'll be seeing all this in live in the class. But you can go over them again. This is just the notes for the class. So for the image, I've explained a lot of things here that you can even. So the icon link that we talked about is here. So the images that I talked about is here. The list that I talked about, as you can see, everything I'm saying, I've already prepared in notes for them that you can always go through to there to just cross check everything like that. So we've not talked about table, but we're going to jump into form in the next class, because this one is very important compared to this thing. Every site you go to, you always see there's a form of way of getting information from the user. Like this site now, as you can see, they have a box for you to input your email, or you can sign up with the phone number, add you to generate this kind of stuff. That's what the form is all about. If you go to Netherlands too and you scroll up, if you are not logged in, as you can see, they have the login page, and if you click on it, you see that they have the same thing. Where you have username, you have password, and you have the button to sign in, or you can reset your email. Every site these days, you always have a form on them. Almost all the sites have a form with them that you can use to give them extra information, and that's what we'll be talking about in the next class. Yeah? And again, in the next class, we're going to be having, or before, yeah. So we're going to be doing some live coding together too in the next class. But for today, we're not going to do that. So the next class, we're still going to be installing some other extension too. So that will be for our next class, like that. So any question? Let me stop recording.